Page 120. Alan, you should know, if you're going to get into that book, you're getting into Kabbalah, and who knows where you might end up going.
You have to be
You have
very
to be
focused.
careful. You know, you might not remain the Litvak that you thought you were.
I've been already expelled from that.
Huh? Thank you. Kedushat HaTzetzaim. You know what Tzetzaim means? Children. Right? It's the V'ni Anachnu V'Tzetzaim. Right? Kulam Yodei Shemecha. So it comes from the word Latzetz. Those that come from you. There was nobody there, right? It was
No one
me.
uses that word, right?
Tzetzaim. Nowadays, yes, used. Tzetzaim Shili, you know. Okay? We use it every day in Birkat Torah.
How?
V'ni Anachnu V'Tzetzainu Kulanu Yodei Shemecha. We learned this to rest called Ishma. It's from the word Yitziyah. Right?
To go out?
Yeah, it's the children that came out from your body.
Is it descendants or
Yeah, children. Descendants, children. There's somebody there, you know.
What?
No, he's going back and forth between the door. It reminds me, I gotta tell him the story.
If you tell it, I'm going to remember it.
Yeah, where's there? Dvorah, can you pass another book for Yisrael Yehuda? Yisrael Yehuda. Got it. There was a very special man who used to live in Montreal. His name was Hossein Felik, and Oliver Shalom. Very special man. He was like, big guy, 6'4" and everything. Can tell you a lot of stories about him. Page 120. And so during the Second World War, people who were in Canada who had come from from countries that were under Nazi occupation were put into what they called an internment camp. Basically, they were put under arrest because the government was afraid that maybe they're spies and things like that. So there were a whole bunch of people who had come from Austria and so on. Among them, the Lubavitcher Hasidim. And so there was this internment camp in the eastern townships, and the security army's authority, and they would give people jobs to do, like, you're going to wash the floor, you're going to clean up after the meal, da. So Nissen was a character, and the officer says, well, today you have to wash the floor. So he says, I don't want to wash the floor. So he says, you have to wash the floor. So he takes the pail of water, and he throws the whole pail of water over the floor. He says, okay, it's washed. So the guy puts him in jail. Like a little prison that they had there. So, and if you needed to go to the bathroom, so you banged on the door, and the guard would come to take you out. So Nissen bangs on the door. The guard comes running. He says, yeah, what do you want? He says, nothing. I didn't bang. Maybe the guy next to me banged. He says, I didn't bang. Maybe the guy next to me banged on the door. Anyway, the guy says, okay, he goes back to his post. Nissen bangs on the door again. He comes running. What do you want? He says, I don't want anything. I didn't, Maybe the guy next to me. I didn't bang. So the guy is getting smart. And he says, he hides, he waits by, to see who banged. Nissen bangs again. He says, I know you banged this time. She says, yeah, now I did. So they kicked him out of the jail. Anyway, so the Kedushat HaTzetzaim, Ka'ed Yaakov v'Michal, page 120. Yeah? Yaakov ומיכל, אתם יכולים לשבת ולעצום את העיניים, sit down and close your eyes.
He's talking to us.
דרכוסן קלה. ולקשור את נשמותיכם לנשמות ילדיכם שיורדים מן השמיים. Right? We were learning that according to the tradition, the souls of the children are coming to accompany the mother and the דרכוסן קלה to the chuppah. So he says that think about, connect your souls to the souls of the children that are coming down. That itself is an awesome thing, right? To have that kind of consciousness, right? Like, when you're getting married, to have that consciousness that you're already connecting with the neshamot of your children. That's an amazing level of consciousness. ויהי רצון שיהיו לילדיכם מורים היודעים קדושת הילדים. And he's giving a bracha, may it be the will of God that your children should merit to have teachers who understand, who know the holiness of children. Right? Generally, did anybody here ever read a modest proposal by somebody Smith? There was a time that it was part of every reading course, basically an introductory literature course in university. And this guy Smith wrote a classic piece of sarcasm, where in England, and you remember reading it? You never read it? You're an educated man.
Sounds familiar, but I can't.
It's about what he talks about, like this is like written in the 1880s in England, and children at the age of 6 were already working in the coal mines, and so he makes this modest proposal about like something far worse that you could do with children, like eat them, God forbid,
Immodest proposal?
A modest, he calls it a modest proposal. So it's total sarcasm from beginning to end, right from the title all the way through. You understand? But what I'm getting at is that like once Mad Magazine had this thing on birth announcements by people of different professions, and one of them was an accountant making a birth announcement and says, Mazel Tov, a new tax deduction was born into our family. Because for every child you can take out a certain amount from the taxes, right? Like people in the world basically looked at children as a commodity, as something like, that you own. And when after Milchemet Sheshet Hayamim, after the 6-day war, Reb Shlomo was walking around in the old city and visiting Arab towns, and people, would come up and we'd hug them and everything, and people were telling him that they're so happy that we won the war, And one girl, like a 16-year-old girl, came up and he said to her, "Tell me the truth. Are you really happy that Israel won?" She says, "Absolutely." She says, "My father was about to sell me to an old man into marriage." And it's very, very tragic. But in other societies, people look at the children as a commodity. You were a farmer, for example. You were a farmer in Quebec. You needed to work your land. There was no one to hire, right? How did you get people to work in your field? You had children. 10, 12, 16 children, and you put them to work. That's how tribes developed. That's how families survived, and it's still true in many, many parts of the world. Okay, the whole issue about children getting an education, the way children get an education today in modern countries, that's a very new thing in history. It's not that. It's like, it didn't really start until the beginning of the early parts of the 20th century. People couldn't afford to send their kids to school. And even when I was a kid, a lot of kids, 4 o'clock, they went to work. To deliver for the grocery store, to the people, or do a paper route, or whatever it was, you had to work. When I was 10 years old, I came home and my father had stuff that needed to be done. You come downstairs and you're working. It was normal. Television? Are you kidding? Sit and do nothing. It was work. That's the way it was. It's the luxury that kids have today is just a very, very modern thing, and it's not proven to be such a good thing. A lot of people grow up and they think they're entitled to have everything without the investment, without doing the work.
My parents never finished elementary school because they had to go to work.
Yeah, my father also, Reb Shlomo, when his bar mitzvah consisted of a cake that his mother baked, and she was never sick, and she couldn't even come to it. And it was Thursday morning, and he went to shul, and he put on tefillin, and got an aliyah, and the people in shul said, "L'chaim, Mazel Tov." And your bar mitzvah, and when he was 15, his father said to him, "If you're willing to live with one slice of bread a day, and wear torn shoes, I can keep you in yeshiva. If you want anything more than that, you're going to work. You have to go to work."
But the girls also have to go.
The girls got married and they went to work. See you tomorrow, Mr. Shum. Yeah. Okay. So that's the way. That's but he's going to work. Yeah. And he got the point.
Right? But there's a difference. He's going because he wants to.
Yeah. I know. He's just kidding. He's affected by you're a joker, and now he's become a joker.
Actually, I don't joke around with it. I'm taking this stuff very seriously.
No, not about this. I know, but anyway. So the concept of kedushat hayeladim, the holiness of children, is something that is a very Jewish thing. The concept of holiness of children. That's what Reb Shlomo is saying to them over here. He's saying, take a few moments and connect your souls with the souls of your children, and may it be Hashem's will that your children are going to have teachers that are aware of the holiness of children. Right? So you know that the Gemara says that, for example, one statement is "Ein ha'olam mitkayem ela behevel timokot shel behevel piyim shel timokot shel beit rabban." The whole existence of the world is dependent on the breath of the children who are learning Torah by their teachers. Right? In other words, the only ones who are still pure in this world, that justify the existence of the world, is the children who are learning Torah. They haven't been corrupted yet. They haven't done anything. But if it was like on the basis of adults, we're in trouble, right? So he says, Abraham Avinu amar lamalachim v'hisha'anu tachat ha'etz. Abraham Avinu said to the angels that you should, come in and rest under the tree, right? So again, it's like very nice when you're reading the story in the Torah, right? But when you think about it, like, do I need to know that he told them to sit down under and rest under a tree? Is that so much a part of the story, right? That the Torah has to tell us that, he not only welcomed them and he offered them food, he offered them shade to sit down in the shade of a tree, right? So the point is that you have to understand that there's something deeper going on here. Right? So when he says, Visha'anu tachat ha'etz, HaMalachim hem ha'yiladim. So the Malachim are representing the children. Now they're like the children. So, Tomar ha'yiladim shalcha, hinei eitz ha'chayim. In other words, he's telling them, in other words, the lesson is that show them the light with the tree of life. Tavtiach ha'yiladim shalcha, shetachim lahem su'udah. Promise your children that you're going to prepare them a meal. Right? What does Abraham Avinu say? I'm going to bring you what? Bread and water. Right? I'll bring you some water, some bread and some water. Right? He's going to bring you some bread and I'm going to give you some water to drink and rest under a tree. So what is that? So he says, Ve'en lechem ela Torah. So the bread is symbolic of Torah. And Ve'en mayim ela Torah. And the water is Torah. In other words, so what he's telling the Chosn and Kaleb, right? He's basically saying, so he says, he spells it out. I'm blessing you, I'm blessing you that whatever it is that you're promising your children right now, Tiskor Tamid, that you should always remember it. V'tamid tikayim, and always fulfill it. B'zrat Hashem yitbarach v'yitaleh, and with the help of Hashem, blessed be He. In other words, so what's the idea? The idea is that, in other words, the story with Avraham Avinu, the way he's welcoming the Malachim, so these children that are coming to the chuppah right now, what are they? They're basically like Malachim. They're not yet in the body, right? And so you're welcoming your future children who are like the Malachim. Okay, how do you welcome Malachim? So take a look in the Torah and see how Avraham Avinu welcomed the Malachim. So what did he do? He connected them with the tree of life, and he connected them with Torah. Right? That's the idea. That's the way we welcome children into this world. Right? Kedushat hayeladim, the holiness of children, is that these children, they just came from the world of truth. They're pure neshamot, they're pure souls. Now they're in the body, they're coming into the world of lies. Right? This world is called Alma de Shikra in the Zohar, the world of lies. It's the world in which you don't see the oneness of God. Not only that you don't see the oneness of God clearly, you can even deny it, chas v'shalom, right? So it's the world of lies. You can say one thing and mean another thing, right? It's a world of lies. And the Neshama is coming into this world of lies. Our responsibility is to realize that this is a holy Neshama, and this Neshama needs the tree of life. This Neshama needs Torah to survive, not as somebody at the door. Maybe I'm just reading the poster, but
How do you connect the children to the Esahaim?
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. Come in. It's a good question. Well, B'ezrat Hashem, you should have good, healthy children, and you should always be dealing with that question.
If I can just add to that question, I'm glad you asked it. I was thinking, how did Avraham Avinu connect the angels, the Eitz Chaim, and the Torah? Rachel, I get the question, no?
Okay, I get the question. A good question.
That's
120. So, I can't give you a full answer right now because I wish I could. But basically, if I were to have to put it into one sentence, so on the one hand, Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba, right? The Torah is described as a tree of life also. But basically, the tree of life, like we said the other day, remember we were talking about Lashon Hara, right? And the important thing to teach children is, you fell down, get up. You fell down again, get up. In other words, you don't give up, right? A Jew doesn't give up, and that's probably one of the most important things of the Eitz Chaim, right? That you remember maybe you guys didn't hear this. So in any case, it's worth repeating. We spoke about this. The Prime Mordechai probably remembers from also Michol. A student of the Baal Shem Tov asked him, how come 2 weeks ago I had a great Shabbos, and this last Shabbos, you remember, yeah? And this last Shabbos was like, you remember? It was like nothing. And the Baal Shem Tov's answer basically was, how does a child learn how to walk? So initially, when the child is able to get up on his feet, the father or the mother is taking the child by the hands and is walking backwards, and the child is walking along, and the kid is so happy. And then what happens? The parent gives go of the hands, right? And more likely than not, the kid falls down, right? But you got to let go so that the kids should try to take the next step, right? Okay. Now, imagine if somebody goes over to a kid who's learning how to walk, and he sees the kid gets up and falls down, gets up and falls down, gets up and falls down. He goes over to the child and he says, "Hey, kiddo, in the last hour you've gotten up and fallen down 52 times. Why don't you give up?" And the kid looks at the adult and says, "Is it guaranteed that I'm going to be stupid like you when I grow up?" Right? Okay. So that's because initially the child is connected to the tree of life. You understand? But to know that you have to. But every time that a parent puts their child down and says like you're bad, you're this, you're that, you're connecting them to the tree of knowledge, not to the tree of life.
If you pick up your kids so they don't fall and they don't fall again.
Then it's also not. Yeah.
What you say is really deeper, connecting what you said last time. That you said that Hashem does that with us, and He leaves closely so
Right.
we can grow.
Right.
So it's like when you say that's what the Jew does, it means that it's not just confronting challenges, but it's more like the connection to Hashem. Like when we feel down, it means that Hashem is kind of hiding so we can
Right.
grow.
Right.
And then He shows
Right.
up again, and then we're up and down, but it means that we're supposed to be growing.
Yeah. And the living tree is growing all the time, right?
Uncle Mabita didn't know that they were malachim. And it was his custom to invite everybody into his tent, whatever it was, give him to eat. And when they thanked him, he said, "Don't thank me, thank God," or whatever it was. So perhaps, but I'm trying to get an answer to my question. So perhaps Avraham Avinu tried to connect the Malachim to Torah through their recognition that there was a B'yad Olam.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it.
Very good.
Far, come I can
Very
answer-
good.
I can answer my own
Very good.
question.
Another 2 weeks we buy you a Strimo Billionaire.
That far. עד עכשיו לא יותר.
Okay, so Kapata first. We'll start with a Kapata.
My grandchildren were
So, חברים מתוקים, כשילד נולד הוא יודע הרבה דברים. When a child is born, the child knows a lot of things. The last paragraph on 120. לא צריך ללמד תינוק איך לבכות, לא צריך ללמד תינוק איך לצחוק. Right? A child doesn't need to be taught how to cry or how to laugh. Right? And those are things that we forget as we grow up, eh? And אבל ילד צריך הורים שילמדו אותו איך ללכת. But a child needs parents that will teach him how to walk. Right? Walking, knowing how to fall, how to get up, how to walk. That's what we need to teach. So, again, like it's really like all these teachings are all about expanding your consciousness and awareness of what's going on, thinking beyond your own personal self. Right? That's what it is. Thinking beyond your own personal self. Page 121. The secret of Rachel. Chatan v'kala pitchu et sharei halev. Chassan and Kala open up the gates of your heart. Zohi Torah amuka mi'et Sod Yesharim. This is a deep teaching from the Sod Yesharim, from the second generation of the Ishbis Rebbes. Ma'u ha'avdel ben Rachel u'ben Leah. What's the difference between Rachel and Leah? Rachel hi imo shel Yosef HaTzadik. Rachel is the mother of Yosef the Tzaddik. Yosef HaTzadik lamad et Torah, v'kiyem kol milah. He learned Torah and he fulfilled everything. L'umat zot, Leah hi imo shel Mashiach. On the other hand, Leah is the mother of Mashiach, right? She's the mother of Yehuda, and Mashiach comes from Yehuda. Right? המדרש והגמרא אומרים שלפעמים הולך אדם אל בת זוגו, ולפעמים בת זוגו הולכת אליו. The Medrash says that sometimes the man goes to his soulmate, and sometimes his soulmate comes to him. זהו ההבדל בין רחל ובין לאה. רחל היא בבחינת יעקב מחפש את בת זוגו. Rachel was Yaakov is looking for his soulmate, right? And Yaakov is looking, and he finds Rachel, right? He goes to the well. Who does he meet? He meets Rachel. Ein kan ta'uyot, vein tzorech lechapes ta'uyot. There's no mistakes over here. There's no need to look for mistakes. Rachel hi imo shel Yosef HaTzadik. Rachel is the mother of Yosef HaTzadik. Alma Galia, the world of revelation. Ani yodea ma ani tzarich la'asot. I know what I need to do. Ani tzarich l'bosh tzitzit. Ani tzarich l'shmur Shabbat. Ani tzarich l'aniach tefillin. All that is Alma Galia, the world that is revealed. Okay, now you know what you need to do. Masha'en ken Leah, whereas Leah, he b'bchinat bat hazuk sheba elam. Leah is his soulmate who comes to him. Yaakov Avinu lo mechapes ota. Yaakov Avinu wasn't looking for her. Yaakov Avinu wasn't looking for her. Hu afilu lo yodea shehi ito. Hu lo chalam al zeh. He doesn't even know that she's with him. He didn't know that she's standing under the chuppah. He didn't dream about it. Hakol ta'ut. It's all a mistake. Right? He thought he's getting married to Rachel. Zehu omek ha'alakim. And this is the depth of the depths. Okay, what's the depths of the depths? Where is he going with this, right? I remember about a year and a half ago, it happened already twice, looking at couple of guys who had gotten married, but the term that they used was a mistake. They felt that they made a mistake, they married the wrong person. And so what do you do with that, right? Is it whose mistake was it? Was it Hashem's mistake? No. Right? Your mistake? Okay. So what do you do now? Right? So here's Yaakov, he's married to Leah. Now and what does he do? He's whether by choice or not by choice, but he stays there, and he has 7 children with her. Half the tribes of the Jewish people are coming from that mistake, so to speak. Not only are half the tribes of the Jewish people coming from that mistake, Mashiach is coming from that mistake too. Right? So, Hadicha l'chuppah sod Leah. So he says that what? So he said that the chuppah itself, so he spoke about the secret of Rachel. Fine. Why did he call that? So in other words, you're going to the chuppah, you think that you know where you're going. Now, who's coming to the chuppah? This is the secret of Leah. Okay? La'amod tachat ha'chuppah is b'bchinat Rachel. To stand under the chuppah is the aspect of Rachel. That's the aspect of Rachel. In other words, standing under the chuppah. In other words, that you're in control. La'lechet el ha'chuppah is b'bchinat Leah. But who's coming to the chuppah? That's the aspect of Leah.
So who's coming or
who's going to the chuppah? Who's walking to the chuppah? Okay. כי לומדים איך ללכת רק כשהולכים ונפלים. So he says that what? How do you learn to walk? You learn to walk by getting up and falling down, getting up and falling down, and so on. So חתן וכלה הישבו זה לזו, שתהיו קשורים זה לזו, הן ברמת רחל מבחינת המידה, כשאתם יודעים בדיוק מה לעשות, והן ברמת לאה בבחינת הליכה, כשעושים טעויות, שתדעו איך ליפול ואיך לקום. So he's saying to the Chosin and the Kale, swear to each other that you're going to be connected to each other on the level of Rachel and also on the level of Leah. In other words, on the level of when you're both standing and you know what needs to be done, and also on the level of Leah, that the level of learning how to walk, that meaning to say that you're going to be connected with each other when mistakes are made, so that you'll know how to fall and how to get up. Okay? So, right? In other words, when you're standing, meaning to say, you know what needs to be done, right? And but when the person falls, or make it, or even worse, when they crash, right? Chas v'sholem, all of a sudden, all the things that you thought that you knew that are going to give you the stability for standing, they have disappeared. You're not standing anymore, right? And you got to know how to get up. And sometimes those crashes are very, very severe. And nebuch, and that's what happens to a lot of people, is that they, when you're 15, 18, or whatever it is, or younger, you have these dreams that you're going to grow up and you're going to make you're going to do these tremendous things in the world. You're going to achieve this and that and that and that and that. And then usually by age 30, the people, if not sooner, they begin to plateau. They just sort of stop growing, right? Either because they stop growing. They stop growing either because they've gotten tired. They've gotten tired. They don't want to struggle anymore, or or things have not worked out the way they were hoping, and things broke down, right? And they just go into despair, chas v'shalom, right? Now, what Reb Shlomo is telling the Chassan and the Kalev, he's telling them, you have to understand that every time that you fall, it's all about learning how to walk better. It's about learning how to get up better. That was the purpose of the fall. The purpose of the fall was not that Hashem decided, oh, I'm going to knock you off your feet. I want you to fall. That's not the purpose of the fall. The purpose of the fall is that you should learn how to walk better. Right? How are you going to learn how to walk better? Only because you fell. If you're walking poorly and you don't fall, you're never going to improve your walk. Right? So he's saying that the Chassan and Kalev, there's both aspects here, right? Yaakov gets married to Rachel and Leah, right? You're marrying. We have enough water for now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. No, it's fine.
I don't want you to have to miss this. And my military. Give this young man some water too. So you're getting married, right? So remember Reb Nachman's teaching. Reb Nachman's teaching that every story in the Torah is about you and I, right? So Yaakov is marrying Rachel, and he's marrying Leah. Okay. So today you don't go out and marry two sisters, right? But the same one woman that you're marrying is both Rachel and Leah. Okay? You're marrying a woman that is going to stand with you, and you're marrying a woman that is also going to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes. Okay? So you need to know how to walk together. You need to know how to help each other when you fall down, and help each other get up.
It also seems like, when you get married, your spouse feels like you're for share. Sometimes it feels like it's a mistake, and you need to realize that it's still your for share, even though sometimes it doesn't.
It's still your basher. Now the Torah does allow for the possibility that maybe this is your soulmate only for a certain amount of time. Okay? So therefore there's such a thing as divorce. But even when there is a divorce, this was your soulmate, this was your basher, this was your soulmate for this amount of time, right? And something positive had to come from it.
Would you say that for each fall, one would get up, one become stronger, better?
Hopefully, unless you're just getting up and doing the same thing again, But if you take the time to try to understand it, what did I do wrong and what can I improve, you're going to get better. But if you're just going to go and repeat the same narishkeit and so on, it doesn't necessarily get better.
I've never heard that concept before. It makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one shouldn't purposely fall in order to get up stronger.
Right.
You don't know.
Right. I'm going to go and do an Aveir so I can be about tshuva. Right? Echte v'oshev. Echte v'oshev, Yeah.
Anna did that.
Anna threatened. She threatened it. She threatened.
Yeah, she threatened. No other religion does that. No other religion even has the concept of threatening God. You don't give me this, I'm going to do that.
It's only because you have such a only because you didn't have such a big neshama that because your neshama is a chelik elokam mimal mamish, right? So you feel a little bit chutzpahdik, like like I'm partly God, like my soul is part of God, That which is supposed to lead you to the greatest humility can, on the flip side, make you the biggest Baal Gaiva, right? In Chabad, the whole Hasidus of Chabad is about bittul, right? So all the egomaniacs come to Chabad. And the rest of this Hasidus is about simcha. So all the depressed people go to Breslov. Each Hasidus is a certain kind of a spiritual hospital. You understand?
And what's the Reb Shlomo?
Huh? We got all the problems. We learn Chabad, we learn Breslov, we learn Chagas, we got the whole gamut.
With multiple personalities.
Right. Okay. So, the Meir Premishlano Meir says, כשאדם זר מלמד תינוק ללכת, when a stranger teaches a child to walk, כשהתינוק נופל and the child falls, הוא גוער בו. The stranger shouts at him and says, and gets angry, he says, עדיין לא למדת איך ללכת? You still don't know how to walk?
What is the word go'er?
Go'er is like raises his voice or scolds him. Remember that word scold? I learned it from my teachers. Yeah, my teachers said that they scolded me. They scalded me. To scold? No. In Britain? Ask him.
Not British, but
I know, but you're from the Commonwealth. He's from the Commonwealth too.
Chastise is also an Oxford.
Chastised. Huh?
No one uses it anymore.
It's used. Huh?
I've heard in certain contexts.
Yeah. So, see, like a stranger says, what, you don't know how to walk yet? But when parents are teaching a child how to walk, every time the child takes one step and then he falls down, wow, it's so beautiful, you took a step. You took one step, that's so beautiful, right? And that's partly the answer to your question. That's tree of life. Okay? But what does Leah say? If you fell, Baruch Hashem lefachot pasat psiya achat. Eze yofi. Baruch Hashem psiya pasat psiya. So that's what Leah is about, right? Leah is the one who teaches us what to do with mistakes. And that's why Mashiach comes from who? From Yehuda, who also, Yosef is the tzaddik, Yehuda is the Baal Tshuva. Right?
Also from me, mistakes, you can think.
Yeah. So, אני מברך אתכם שתמכו זה לזה, ברוך השם פסת הפסיעה. I bless you that you should be able to, you should always tell each other, well, I'm so proud that you took another step.
Who says Eze Yofi?
Yeah, Leah is saying, Eze Yofi, right?
Eze Yofi
when they takes each time the child takes a step.
After he falls.
After he falls, he takes another
After
step.
he falls, it says, you took a step.
Yeah. It's where you put the focus. Right? And so there's a famous story about Reb Meir Premishlaner considered relating to walking, that in Premishlan, apparently the mikveh was at the bottom of a steep hill. And in wintertime, that hill was always icy. And anybody who would walk up and down that hill would usually slip. And Reb Meir, he would walk up and down the hill and he wouldn't fall. And people used to come out, especially Friday afternoon, to watch him going to the mikveh. It was just like something to see, like, here's this tzaddik, like walking up this icy hill or walking down the icy hill and not falling. So finally somebody asked him, how do you do it? So he said that He said, as man ist zugebunden von oben, fällt man nicht unten. If you're connected from above, you don't fall below. Right? So the first time that the Frierdiker Rebbe sent Reb Shlomo and Reb Shlomo and Zalman on Shlichus, they went to Brandeis University. It was Hanukkah time. There was a Hanukkah dance taking place, and they went in there into the hall, and within a few minutes, half the crowd was standing around Shlomo, half the crowd was standing around Zalman, and Shlomo was saying Torah, Shlomo was telling stories, and Zalman was saying Torah. Anyway, when they finally finished and they're leaving, so this guy is accompanying them, and it was winter time, Hanukkah time, and it was icy, and they had to go down these stairs, and the guy says, "How are you going to go down the stairs?" And they told him the story of Reb Shlomo, and they walked down the icy stairs, and nothing happened to them. A couple of weeks later, they see this guy. He's all bruised. He's got his guys. I don't know if he's on crutches or not. They say, "What happened?" He says, "I tried to do what you did, and I fell." Anyway, he became a Balshuva from that story.
So if you're connected from above,
You don't fall below. So it's in other words, and if you fell, connect yourself back up above, right? How do you get up? You reach up and you hold on. There's another story there's a book over here. You see it behind you. It's called Hasidic Tales from the Holocaust. The second shelf from the bottom. The second or the third book from the left. That shelf. This is an amazing book. This lady did, at the Yad Vashem, there's this tower of pictures of children. So this lady, Yafra Aliyach, I heard she needs a refuah. So she's a professor of literature, and she went around, she put out this book, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago. And a lot of these stories were taken from her interviews with Rabbi Yisrael Shapira, who was the Tzchina Rebbe in New York, and he was a survivor from the Holocaust survivor. He was in the concentration camps. And so one Yom Kippur, the Nazis in Shemam, they told the Yidden to dig a huge pit. And then when they finished digging this huge pit, they told them, "We know that it's your Yom Kippur. It's your day of judgment, who's going to live and who's not going to live. So now everybody line up and jump across the pit. If you succeed, you're in the book of life. If you don't succeed, you're obviously in the book of death." That's how they use their brains, right? So there was this man that had befriended it wasn't the Tzchina, it was the Blushever Rebbe. He'd become friends with the Blushever Rebbe. And this man wasn't a religious man. He was like a Jewish socialist and so on. But he was an honest man, and they had good conversations. They were living in the same bunk. And he says to the Blushever, and the Blushever Rebbe at the time was like 50 years old. He says to the Blushever Rebbe, he says, "We're never going to make it across this." It's like a really wide pit. And the Blushever Rebbe says to him, "If God wants us to live, we're going to make it across." Anyway, they lined up, and the Blushever Rebbe was in front of this man, and the Blushever Rebbe, whatever space they had there, he mumbled a few words, and he runs, and he puts his hand up, and he jumps, and he made it across. A couple of people after him is this friend of his, and I forgot his name right now, and he jumps, he puts his hand up, and he makes it across. So later that night they're talking, so this man says to the Blushever Rebbe, "How did you do it?" So he said, "I said a prayer, and I visualized that my holy ancestors were reaching down from the sky and putting their hands out to me, and I put my hand up and I held on to them, and I got across." So the Blushever Rebbe says to this man, who wasn't religious, he says, "So how did you get across?" he was also like 50 years old, nobody was in great shape. So he says, for me it was easy. I was holding on to you. I was holding on to you. In a sense, it's an amazing story. And
I read that book when I was too young.
you read it when you were too young. You can reread it. And anyway, so the people fall. You have to get up again. You have to get up. I told you the other day that my friend, his father-in-law lived in Belgium, and there was this, I forgot the name of the Rebbe there, but there was some really holy tzaddik, survivor of the war. And one day at the Kiddush, he hands my friend's father-in-law, he hands him a pulka, a chicken leg. And he says to him, Rebbe, why are you giving me this? He says, because it's time for you to get back up on your feet. And there's like we can go through hard things, but at some point you just have to say, okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to lie here on the floor the rest of my life, or am I going to get up? And that, and sometimes the only reason that we're not getting up is because we're angry. We're angry at this one, we're angry at that one, we're angry at that one. But that doesn't help you. That doesn't help us, because the only one that you really have free choice over is your own self. It's your own self. This one did this, and he did this, and she did that, and she did that. And it's all true. But what are you doing now? Right? Why are you willing to give them so much power that they could ruin the rest of your life? In any case, the important thing that he's really trying to get across to the Chosn and the Kala is just be prepared and promise each other that when things get tough, you're not going to knock each other further down, but rather that you're going to help each other get up. Okay? And sadly, what happens so often is that that's why you should always be careful, as to who are your friends and who you're talking with, because so many people are so fast to reinforce any negative view that you might have, and you don't need that. You need people who reinforce the positive, who say, there's still a chance that things could work out. Let's work on it. Let's try to make it happen.
Be careful whose hand you hold jumping across the ditch.
He's also a social worker. He's also a social work background.
Oh, no.
But that's what you're studying, no?
Mm.
What did you say you're studying?
Chinese physical therapy.
Huh?
Chinese physical therapy. Massage therapy.
Chinese social work. Okay. Let's do a little bit more. Ha'alicha el ha'chuppah. Schar al kol psiya v'psiya. So walking to the chuppah, being rewarded for every step. Davar chashuv nosaf, another important thing I want to tell you, says Reb Shlomo. Ka'et atem bonim et Eretz Yisrael shelachem, you're building your own personal Israel, Eretz Yisrael Ktana, your mini Israel. Ma'at mi Beit HaMikdash, you're building a little bit of the Beit HaMikdash. כשבורא עולם אמר לאברהם אבינו ללכת לארץ ישראל, when the creator of the world said to Avraham Avinu to go to Israel, הוא אמר לך לך, he said to him, go unto yourself. Rashi HaKadosh אומר, ליתן שכר על כל פסיעה ופסיעה. So Rashi says that Hashem is saying to Avram, go, right? And from here we learn that Hashem is rewarding him for every step along the way. Avraham Avinu למד את הסוד של קבלת שכר אפילו על פסיעה אחת. So Avraham Avinu learned the secret of being rewarded even for one step. חברים יקרים, צרו כעת שביל ישר, he says, make a straight line, שיוביל מחתן לכלה, make a line for the, a straight line for the chassan to get to the kala, כדי שהחתן יוכל לבוא לחופה, to lead the chassan to the chuppah. Okay, so right, what does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says, Lo alecha hamelacha ligmor. It's not your responsibility necessarily to complete the job. Ve'ein atav ben chorin lihibatel mimena, but neither are you free to quit. Right? In other words, you got to keep going as long as you possibly can, even if you're not going to complete it. I'm saying, huh? Yeah. There's I went through this parable. This guy is, I heard it from a physicist. This guy is looking, looking out his big window on his front lawn. And there's a big boulder there, and he decides that it's sort of interfering with his view of the mountain. So he decides that he's going to get rid of it. But how do you break a big boulder? So how do you move a big boulder? So you got to break it. So he goes and gets a sledgehammer, and he's banging and he's banging and he's banging 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, 400 times, and he finally is tired. Nothing seems to have happened, and a boulder. A boulder is a huge rock. A huge rock. So like a rock the size of the table is called a boulder, And so he's tired. He decides he's going to go in and get a cup of coffee. He puts the sledgehammer next to the boulder, goes in, gets himself a cup of coffee. He's looking out the window. Somebody's passing by. He sees the boulder. He sees the sledgehammer, picks it up, gives it one bang, and the whole thing goes and breaks into pieces. So, from a point of view of physics, what actually happened? Did the first 400 bangs mean nothing? No, it was because he did those 400 smashes, right? That the next guy was able to complete the job with one bang. Understand? So there's two lessons over here. Number one is that whatever you're doing, every step along the way, the energy is building up. And number two, and this has happened to me too many times, is that how you give up just one, you just needed to do one more thing and you stopped, right? And then you feel like such an idiot, like, only if we would have had another 2 minutes of patience, And the story with Reb Nachman. Reb Nachman, we told the story about this, the poor shtuppers that would go from synagogue to synagogue. Anyway, and they always had to team up because it was dangerous to travel through the woods alone. You needed a buddy. So this Jewish guy, he had teamed up with Boris, like this Polak, and they come to town, and it's Erev Pesach, and he says to Boris, tonight you're going to get a good meal, because tonight all the Jews invite guests, and just don't say anything, just keep your mouth shut, and you'll be invited, and don't let them know who you are, right? And just be polite, you'll get a good meal. 4 cups of wine, and so on. So he gets invited to a Seder, and they made up they would meet afterwards at night, wherever they were going to stay. Anyway, Boris goes to a Seder, and they make Kiddush, so he gets a cup of wine. Okay, that's good. Then the next food that he gets, he doesn't understand the word of the Haggadah. The next food that he gets is a little bit of karpas in salt water. He's waiting for more food, and that's all he's getting. And then they take this book and they're reading 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 and they're reading, right? And he's like starving. And then they finally give him some matzah, like this tough to chew matzah, right? And then he sees they're handing out food, and he puts his hand out and they give him like a whole handful of maror, and he puts it into his mouth, and he spits it out, and he starts cursing, and he gets the storms out of the house. And that's what he tells his friend. That was the meal that I got invited to. He said, if you would have just waited a little bit longer, you would have had a feast. Right? If you would have waited, huh? Yeah. If you would have waited just a bit longer, you would have had a feast. Understand? You know, you don't know how many more times you're going to have to get up until you really know how to walk. But if you would have just waited a bit longer, you know, it'll be good, it could be good, it will be good, and so on. Till Shabbos, yeah. If they would have waited till Shabbos, Hashem was going to let them eat from the tree of life.
Something hidden. You don't know when they're trying.
Right. V'cheinu avinu kulanu kiyachad, kulanu kiyachad v'yayvanecha. V'cheinu avinu kiyachad, kulanu kiyachad v'yayvanecha. V'cheinu avinu kulanu Kulanu kiyafad v'yayvanecha v'cheinu avinu kulanu. You know, just give it tzedakah. There's no actual case. You know that. Give tzedakah. I lie, la 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 So